The Harpies, mythological beings of unusual presence, have their origin in the union of two divine figures, Tomante, the titan of marine wonders, and Electra, nymph of the deep and mysterious oceans. This procreation gave rise to three creatures, Alo, Seleno, and Ocypete, each carrying a mixture of fascinating beauty and terrifying power. These creatures, despite their beautiful female appearance, possess sharp claws and bird-like wings, which equip them to fulfill their divine task. The Harpies were the executors of the gods' justice, charged with punishing those who dared to defy their will. They often fulfilled this function by stealing food, hence their name Harpies, meaning the snatchers. Swift as the wind and stealthy as the shadow, the Harpies became a symbol of divine vengeance. Their appearance, a fusion of divine and earthly elements, was a perfect reflection of their dual nature, their place between gods and mortals. They possessed the bodies of birds of prey, covered with feathers that oscillated between the deep black and the blue of the sea during a storm. Their claws, strong and sharp, could tear the toughest flesh with ease. Their wings, huge and powerful, could darken the sun and unleash tempestuous winds with a single beat. Every part of their being screamed danger, a promise of death and destruction to those who dared to defy them. And yet, despite this monstrosity, the Harpies were also creatures of bewildering beauty. Their faces were those of the most beautiful women, with delicate features and eyes that glowed with an inner light. Their voices, though capable of emitting the most hideous croaks, could also sing with a sweetness that would charm any mortal. This combination of beauty and monstrosity was both fascinating and terrifying. Harpies were known for many things, but none so infamous as their insatiable appetite. Although their main food was dead, their hunger was such that they despised no food, devouring everything in their path with an uncontrollable craving. It was said that Harpies not only consumed flesh and food but also stole the vitality and hope of their victims. Feeding was more than a physical necessity for them. It was a way of sowing fear and despair, of reminding mortals of the inevitability of their fate. Perhaps the best-known example of this voracity is the story of King Phineas. This monarch was condemned by the gods to eternal punishment. He was provided with a feast every day, only to be snatched away by the Harpies before he could get a bite to eat. The Harpies would snatch his food day after day, leaving him in a state of perpetual despair. But Phineas' luck changed with the arrival of the Argonauts, the legendary heroes who sailed in search of the Golden Fleece. Under the leadership of Jason, the Argonauts were a group of heroes including Hercules and the brothers Boreas, sons of the North Wind. When they arrived on the island of Phineas and saw his misery, they were moved by his plight and decided to help him. The Boreas brothers, with their ability to fly and their superhuman strength, were specially prepared to face the Harpies. The confrontation was fierce. The Harpies, accustomed to being the hunters, found themselves for the first time as prey. The Boreas brothers chased them through the skies, unleashing their fury in a storm of wind and fury. The Harpies, though fearsome, could not withstand the assault and were forced to flee. However, before the Boreas brothers could strike the final blow, the goddesses Iris and Hermes appeared. They ordered them to stop pursuing the Harpies, assuring them that Phineas would no longer be tormented by them. With this pact, the persecution of the Harpies came to an end. The Harpies also play a central role in the transformation of the Sirens. According to the myth, in a time of gods and myths, the Sirens were young women of dazzling beauty, servants of the goddess Persephone. They lived in the peace of nature, laughing and singing songs that even the gods found enchanting. But everything changed the day the dark Hades abducted Persephone. The Sirens found themselves helpless as their beloved mistress was dragged to the underworld. Demeter, Persephone's mother, furious at her daughter's abduction and the Sirens' inability to protect her, summoned the Harpies. "Harpies, daughters of wind and storm, descend and do justice." From high in the sky, the Harpies descended, their ethereal bodies glowing with a menacing light. They confronted the Sirens, their eyes sparkling with a wave of anger that matched Demeter's. "You failed to protect Persephone," roared the leader of the Harpies, Ilo. "For that failure, you will suffer. We condemn you to live as creatures of dual natures, like us." With a flap of wings and a rush of icy air, the Harpies launched their curse. The sirens screamed as their appearance changed, their bodies taking on bird-like features, their skin becoming covered in feathers. But their song, their beautiful song, remained intact. "Do not forget your duty," Aello continued, pointing at them with a sharp claw. "You will use your song to lure mortals. Their lost lives will be a constant reminder of your failure." Harpies also have a presence in the Aeneid. Aeneas and his companions, after surviving the fall of Troy and a series of maritime disasters, reached the Strophades, the islands of the Harpies. Hunger consumed them, so, seeing a large number of cows and goats, they did not hesitate to feast. Just as they began to enjoy their meal, the sky darkened. A strong wind howled, and the Harpies descended. With their sharp claws, they pounced on the food, leaving behind an unbearable stench. Aeneas, outraged by this attack, directed his men. "To the gun, comrades, this is a war we must fight!" On their second attempt to feast, Aeneas and his men were ready. The moment the Harpies descended, arrows flew and swords were drawn. Although the creatures were swift and elusive, one of them, Selinus, was wounded and landed on a high cliff. The Harpy Selinus raised her voice above the wind, shouting to the Trojans, "Aeneas, son of Aphrodite! Is this how you respond to our hospitality? You steal our food and now you wound us?" Aeneas, wielding his sword, replied, "It was you who attacked first, creature. We are not thieves, we are starving men, far from our home." Selinus squawked, his laughter echoing in the heavens. "Then, if it is home you seek, I will give you an omen. You will reach Italy, yes, but you will not build your city until hunger makes you bite your shield." Selinus' words stunned Aeneas and his men. The remaining Harpies gathered in the sky, preparing for another raid. But before they could strike, Aeneas' voice rose, loud and clear. "Onward, men of Troy, we must not fear these creatures. Our fate awaits us in Italy." The Harpies, finally, left the Trojans alone, and the group continued their journey, marked by Selinus' strange omen, but determined to face what fate had in store for them. Thus, Aeneas' encounter with the Harpies became another milestone in his long journey toward the founding of Rome. These creatures of ancient Greek mythology, half-woman and half-bird, have resonated through the eons, not only as terrifying characters but also as symbols of storms and challenges. Often feared, but also respected, Harpies embody destructive force and renewal. They lay waste to everything in their path, but also leave a blank canvas for new beginnings. In this sense, they are a perfect metaphor for the duality of existence, a living paradox. The Harpies, like so many mythical creatures, teach us that beauty and beast can coexist in the same form.